Hey Tom, I'm Ewan from GAMINGbible. Good to
Hello,
meet you.
mate.
So if we just get straight down to it, I guess.
Let's do it.
So No Way Home looks to be the biggest Spidey movie yet in every sense. I wonder what was your initial reaction to the movie when it was first pitched to you?
I was, in all honesty, very skeptical. I didn't think that I just didn't think it was something that we could pull off. It seemed like too big a feat. While a really cool idea, and I was excited at the idea, at the prospect of it. I just didn't think it was something we'd be able to do. And as time went on, and it all started becoming more real, and people were agreeing to come back and bring these characters to life, it was really exciting and also pretty daunting. Stepping on set with the Green Goblin and Doc Ock and Electro is quite scary.
Yeah. And so on that, obviously one of the things people love about Spider-Man is the personal connection he has to so many of his villains, like
Yeah,
with you and Michael Keaton's Vulture. And of course, Doc Ock and Green Goblin in this movie have a personal connection to a Spider-Man, but not your Spider-Man. So I
sure.
wonder if you could speak a little bit about your dynamic with these characters.
It's interesting. It's a dynamic and a relationship that is almost on fast forward because we have a lot of story to tell and so many characters. So I feel like the relationship between my Spider-Man and Doc Ock and the Goblin and Electro is accelerated, which is really nice because it almost feels like I got to make three movies in one film
Mm.
with like mini arcs with each character. So it was interesting. It was also kind of fun to kind of obviously Doc Ock has his previous kind of agenda when it comes to Spider-Man. So I got to kind of take some of that on and try and change it in my own way. So it was nice to have that responsibility of carrying on Toby's story.
Okay. And obviously Alfred Molina's arc in Spider-Man 2 is one of the reasons people love the movie so much. Was there any concern about bringing him back?
I mean, I think John Watts did understand the responsibility he had of bringing these characters back that seemingly have had the perfect arc, and we didn't want to disrupt that at all. I think there is a piece of information you will learn when you watch this film uh, that will explain why what we're doing is okay. But it was something that we took very seriously because we didn't want to step on anybody's toes.
Joe Russo recently said he believes Spider-Man is very much sort of stepping into the role previously occupied by Robert Downey Jr. and described Peter as very much the soul of the MCU. Is that a pressure you feel to sort of be the new face of this massive franchise?
I mean, I'm not sure if that's entirely the case. Obviously, I'm very appreciative. Joe is a very very good friend of mine. Yeah, there's a bit of pressure there, but when you're in the MCU, you're never alone.
Hmm.
And I think before I become the face of the franchise, we've got to remember that we have Star Lord, Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth. There's loads of different people that I think should probably step up to the plate and be the leader. Peter Parker, at the end of the day, has just graduated high school, so he's still a kid. But I'm hugely grateful that Joe would say something like that. I mean, it's always great having someone as awesome as the Russo brothers in your corner. So yeah, so it's pretty great.
And obviously, you've been playing Spider-Man since I think 1920.
Yeah,
So
19. Yeah.
yeah, so having done three solo movies now as a high schooler, and with that sort of chapter very much coming to an end, where would you personally want to take the character next? Do you feel like there's more to do with Spider-Man?
If I was to talk about what I would like to do with Spider-Man in the future, I would ruin this movie. I have a very clear idea of what I would like a follow-up movie to be. Whether or not we make that movie or not, I don't know. But I can't talk about that without ruining this one.
Sure.
Sorry.
Completely understandable. I mean, you've done a great job of not ruining anything so far.
Thank you.
It's amazing. Um, Peter's relationship with Doctor Strange in this movie, obviously very different to the one he had with Iron Man. We saw a little bit of it in Infinity War. Could
Yeah.
you talk a bit about how that relationship has sort of evolved and grown?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think there is, now a level of mutual respect between the two of them. Both of them have saved the world in their own right. And I think it's as simple as Peter Parker is going to a colleague to ask for a favor. But in the world of superheroes, that is Spider-Man asking Doctor Strange to brainwash the entire world to forget who he is. So, it's slightly higher stakes and all that sort of stuff, but it's really exciting to see this relationship between two Avengers blossom, and then it kind of falls apart, and we're not enemies, but we're definitely not friends. Um, but it's really nice to see that relationship grow, especially after Peter has lost so much. It's nice for him to find someone else that he can lean on.
And obviously, you sort of met everyone briefly over the course of the last two Avengers movies. Are there any other heroes in particular whose relationships you'd like to explore further?
I'd love to explore a relationship with the Hulk. I
Hmm.
think it's really cool. I just think the image of the Hulk and Spider-Man teaming up together would be really fun. And I just like the idea of the Hulk walking around and Spider-Man sitting on his shoulders. I just think it's a really funny image. But I also think Ant-Man would be a really fun one for Peter Parker to team up with. I think a small Spider-Man, I know I am small, but like a tiny Spider-Man would be really funny.
Yeah. So there are, I think, 26, 27 MCU movies as of right now, and so much more to come.
Yeah.
Do you think the MCU is this thing that can keep going forever, or do you think it's something that I guess should one day have a big grand finale?
I think it will always be going on. I think, Kevin Feige and his incredible team of producers will always be coming up with new ways to make this universe exciting and different, and to be constantly challenging the audience with new ideas. People will say that Endgame was the end of an era, and I think they're probably right. It probably was the end of the era. But what's so incredible about Marvel is their ability to start something new. You've got the Black Widow franchise, the Shang-Chi franchise, Eternals, all of these great films coming out that people are loving, and they're expanding their universe. I mean, if you look at the comics, there's endless possibilities to what they can do.
Hmm. So if I could just leave you with one final question, Tom.
Mm.
20 years from now, how do you want your Spider-Man to be remembered? What do you want his legacy to be?
Wow, that's a big question. I mean, I just remember as a kid looking back at certain films and remembering how much happiness and joy they brought me as a kid. So if there is even a handful of people that in 20 years' time look back on these movies and it reminds them of, a cold Christmas wind night where they're sitting down, the fire's on, the family is sitting down watching a Spider-Man movie, that for me is what I'd like my Spider-Man to be remembered for.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tom, and I can't wait to see the movie.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, take it easy.